Plato's cave allegory, imagine being chained in a dark cave since childhood, facing a blank wall, unable to turn your head. Behind you burns a fire, and between the fire and you is a raised walkway. Along this walkway, people carry objects that cast shadows on the wall before you. These shadows are all you've ever seen. They are your reality. Now, imagine being freed from these chains and forced to turn around. The fire blinds you at first, and the real objects seem less real than their shadows. As you're dragged out of the cave into the sunlight, the pain in your eyes is excruciating. Gradually, you begin to see the world as it truly is: trees, mountains, the sun itself. This powerful allegory, presented by Plato in The Republic, explores the profound journey from ignorance to enlightenment. The shadows represent our limited understanding of reality, while the outside world represents true knowledge and wisdom. The painful journey from darkness to light symbolizes the challenging process of education and philosophical awakening. What makes this thought experiment particularly profound is its timeless relevance. In our modern world, we might be viewing shadows through our social media feeds, news bubbles, or cultural prejudices. Like the cave dwellers, we might resist new truths that challenge our comfortable illusions. The returning element is equally significant. Imagine going back to the cave to tell others about the real world. They would likely reject your truth, preferring their familiar shadows. This represents the challenge faced by those who gain new knowledge or insight, the difficulty of sharing truth with those who aren't ready to receive it. The Ship of Theseus. Imagine a legendary ship that's preserved in a harbor as a museum piece. Over time, as parts of the ship begin to decay, they are replaced with identical pieces. After many years, every single original piece has been replaced. Here's the philosophical puzzle. Is it still the same ship? The thought experiment deepens when we consider a twist. What if someone collected all the original pieces as they were removed and reassembled them into another ship? Now we have two ships, one with the original materials but assembled later, and one with new materials but maintaining continuous form. Which one is the real Ship of Theseus? This elegant puzzle forces us to confront fundamental questions about identity, continuity, and the nature of objects. It applies not just to ships, but to everything that changes over time, including ourselves. Our bodies replace most of their cells every few years, yet we maintain our identity. How is this possible? The experiment raises fascinating questions about what makes something the same over time. Is it the physical materials, the form or function, the continuous history, or perhaps some combination of these factors? These questions become increasingly relevant in an age of artificial organs, digital consciousness, and technological enhancement. Modern applications of this puzzle are everywhere, from questions about restored classics to debates about human consciousness uploading. If we could transfer our minds to computers, would we still be us? The Ship of Theseus continues to sail through contemporary philosophical debates about identity.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
The brain in a vabbit. Imagine your brain has been removed from your body and placed in a vat of nutrients that keeps it alive. Scientists have connected this brain to a supercomputer that provides electrical impulses identical to those your brain normally receives, creating a perfect simulation of reality. In this scenario, would you know you're a brain in a vat? Could you prove you're not one right now? This thought experiment strikes at the heart of our understanding of reality and knowledge. Everything you experience, the screen you're reading this on, the chair you're sitting in, your entire life story, could theoretically be an elaborate simulation fed directly to your brain. There would be no way to distinguish these artificial inputs from real sensory experiences. What makes this particularly unsettling is that it's about the fundamental nature of our reality and how we know what we know. Unlike simpler skeptical scenarios, the brain in a vat challenges our most basic assumptions about our existence and our ability to verify anything. The experiment has gained new relevance in our digital age. As virtual reality technology advances and our understanding of consciousness deepens, the line between real and simulated experiences becomes increasingly blurry. Are our online interactions any less real than physical ones? How do we define authentic experience? This thought experiment also raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness and identity. If your brain was in a vat but experiencing a full, rich life, would that life be any less meaningful? Are our experiences valuable because they're real, or because of how they affect our consciousness? The Chinese rule. Imagine sitting in a room with a large book of rules. People outside the room slip papers under the door with Chinese characters written on them. You don't understand Chinese, but by following the rules in the book, you can match patterns and write appropriate Chinese responses which you slip back under the door. To the people outside, it appears you understand Chinese perfectly. This thought experiment, proposed by philosopher John Searle, challenges our understanding of artificial intelligence and consciousness. The key question is, do you actually understand Chinese? While you can produce correct responses, you're simply following rules without comprehension, much like a computer program. What makes this experiment profound is how it questions the nature of understanding and consciousness. A computer might pass the Turing test while merely manipulating symbols according to programmed rules. This raises crucial questions about whether artificial intelligence can ever truly understand or think in the way humans do. The implications extend beyond AI into questions about consciousness, understanding, and the nature of mind. Is there a fundamental difference between appearing to understand and actually understanding? Can consciousness emerge from purely mechanical processes? These questions become increasingly relevant as AI systems become more sophisticated. The Chinese room has sparked decades of debate about the possibility of genuine artificial intelligence. Some argue that while the person in the room doesn't understand Chinese, the system as a whole, person plus rulebook, does. Others maintain that no amount of symbol manipulation can create true understanding. The trolley problem. Picture yourself standing by a railway track. You see a runaway trolley barreling down the tracks toward 5 people who are tied up and unable to move. You are standing next to a switch that can divert the trolley onto a different track, but there is one person tied up on that track. Would you pull the switch, actively choosing to kill one person to save 5? Now consider a variation. Instead of a switch, you're standing on a bridge above the tracks. The only way to stop the trolley is to push a large person standing next to you off the bridge. Their body would stop the trolley, saving the 5 people but killing the large person. Would you do it? And if your answer is different from the first scenario, why? This thought experiment reveals fascinating complexities in our moral intuitions. Many people feel comfortable pulling the switch but uncomfortable pushing the person, even though both actions save 5 lives at the cost of 1. This raises profound questions about the nature of moral decision-making and the difference between action and inaction. The trolley problem becomes even more complex when we consider modern applications. Self-driving cars might face similar decisions in accidents. Should they be programmed to protect their passengers at all costs, or should they minimize overall casualties? Who should make these decisions? What makes this experiment particularly valuable is how it exposes the tension between different moral frameworks. Utilitarian ethics would suggest both scenarios are equivalent, saving 5 lives at the cost of 1. But our moral intuitions often align more with deontological ethics, which considers the nature of actions themselves, not just their consequences. The experience machine. Imagine a perfect virtual reality machine that can give you any experience you desire. Once plugged in, you would think and feel as if everything were real, experiencing a life of extraordinary happiness and fulfillment. The catch? You must remain connected forever, leaving behind your actual life for this simulated one. Would you plug in? This thought experiment, proposed by Robert Nozick, challenges our understanding of happiness and the nature of a good life. The machine offers guaranteed happiness, yet many people instinctively reject it. This revelation suggests that we value more than just positive experiences. We want our experiences to be real and authentic. What makes this particularly relevant today is our increasing immersion in virtual experiences. Social media, video games, and virtual reality offer increasingly compelling alternatives to real experiences. Are we already choosing a form of experience machine? What makes real experiences more valuable than virtual ones? The experiment also raises profound questions about the nature of happiness and meaning. If we could have perfect happiness through artificial means, why do we resist? This suggests that we value things beyond mere pleasure, perhaps authenticity, achievement, or connection to reality itself. This thought experiment becomes even more fascinating when we consider technological advancement. As virtual reality becomes more sophisticated and our lives become increasingly digital, the line between real and virtual experiences continues to blur. At what point does the distinction become meaningless? Mary's room, the knowledge argument. Imagine Mary, a brilliant scientist who has spent her entire life in a black and white room. She knows everything there is to know about color from a scientific perspective. Wavelengths, how the brain processes color, the neural mechanisms of vision. She understands color more thoroughly than anyone else in the world, but she has never actually seen color. One day, she leaves her room and sees a red rose for the first time. The crucial question is, does Mary learn something new when she sees red for the first time? If she already knew everything about color, what could she possibly learn? Yet intuitively, we feel that experiencing red must teach her something that all her scientific knowledge couldn't provide. This thought experiment, developed by Frank Jackson, challenges our understanding of consciousness and the nature of knowledge. It suggests there might be a fundamental difference between physical, scientific knowledge, knowing, and experiential knowledge, knowing what it's like. The implications are profound for our understanding of consciousness and subjective experience. If Mary does learn something new, it suggests that there are facts about consciousness that can't be reduced to physical facts. This raises deep questions about the relationship between mind and body. Modern applications of this puzzle emerge in discussions about artificial intelligence and machine consciousness. Could a machine ever truly experience something, or would it be like Mary before seeing red, possessing all the information but none of the qualia, subjective experience. Philosophical zombie. Imagine an exact physical duplicate of yourself, atom for atom identical but with one crucial difference. This duplicate has no conscious experiences. While they behave exactly like you, respond to stimuli the same way, and are indistinguishable from you externally, they have no internal mental life. There's nothing it's like to be them. This thought experiment challenges our understanding of consciousness and its relationship to physical reality. If such a zombie is conceivable, what does that tell us about consciousness? Is consciousness something beyond the physical properties of our brains? The zombie argument suggests that even if we can explain all human behavior in physical terms, we might still not have explained consciousness itself. This raises profound questions about the nature of subjective experience and whether it can be reduced to purely physical processes. The implications extend into debates about artificial intelligence and machine consciousness. If a computer could perfectly simulate human behavior, would that necessarily mean it was conscious? Or could it be a sophisticated zombie processing information without any subjective experience? This thought experiment becomes particularly relevant as we develop more sophisticated AI systems. When we create machines that can pass the Turing test or engage in human-like behavior, how can we know whether they have genuine conscious experiences or are merely philosophical zombies? The simulation argument. Imagine future civilizations with immense computing power creating detailed simulations of their ancestors. These simulations would be so sophisticated that the simulated beings, like us, would have consciousness and believe they were living in a real world. Given this possibility, what are the odds that we ourselves are living in such a simulation? This argument, formalized by Nick Bostrom, suggests we must accept one of three propositions. Either advanced civilizations never develop such simulation capabilities, they choose not to run such simulations, or we are almost certainly living in a simulation ourselves. What makes this thought experiment particularly compelling is its logical structure. If we accept that consciousness can be simulated, and that technological development will continue, then the number of simulated beings would vastly outnumber real beings, making it statistically likely that we are simulated. The implications extend beyond mere philosophical speculation. It raises questions about the nature of reality, consciousness, and our place in the universe. If we might be living in a simulation, how should that affect our behavior or our understanding of physical laws? Modern developments in virtual reality and computing make this argument increasingly relevant. As our own simulation capabilities advance, we must grapple with questions about the nature of reality and consciousness that were once purely theoretical. THOMSO'S Violinist. Imagine waking up in a hospital, connected by medical equipment to a famous violinist. You learn that the violinist has a fatal kidney condition and you alone have the matching blood type to help. The Society of Music Lovers has kidnapped you and connected you to the violinist. If you stay connected for 9 months, the violinist will recover and you can both go free. If you disconnect, the violinist will die. This thought experiment, developed by Judith Thomson, was designed to explore the ethics of bodily autonomy and obligation, particularly in relation to abortion debates. It raises fundamental questions about the extent of our obligations to others and the right to control our own bodies. What makes this experiment powerful is how it isolates key ethical principles at stake in complex moral debates. It forces us to consider whether there's a moral difference between actively causing death and allowing death to occur by refusing to aid. It also challenges us to think about the limits of bodily autonomy and personal sacrifice. The implications extend beyond the original context into broader questions about medical ethics, personal freedom, and social obligation. When does one person's right to life override another's right to bodily autonomy? How do we balance competing moral claims? Modern applications of this thought experiment arise in discussions about organ donation, medical consent, and the limits of individual liberty versus social responsibility. It continues to provide valuable insights into contemporary ethical debates.